At the end of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, we see Senator Padme Amidala giving birth to Luke and Leia Skywalker. With the threats of Darth Vader and Darth Sidious looming over the Jedi, former Jedi Grandmaster Yoda decides to split Luke and Leia, with Bail Organa adopting Leia, and Luke to his family on Tatooine, whilst Obi-Wan watched over them. However, due to the Lars' dislike of Obi-Wan and the Force, Luke was not trained until a late age. But what if Ahsoka had raised Luke from birth? How would this change Star Wars history? As you're about to see, a lot changes. After the issue of Order 66, the planet of Mandalore descends into chaos. As the clones turn on Ahsoka Tano, she begins to make an escape off of the planet. Faking her own death alongside Rex's, the Force will suddenly call to her, telling her to not go to the Outer Rim to hide from the Empire, but to head for the asteroid colony of Polis Massa. Ahsoka searches the Force again, but could only sense that this was the place to be. Approaching the asteroid field, she sees Polis Massa base, and lands beside the Nubian starfighter, which she recognizes as Padme's. Rushing to the medical facility, she sees Obi-Wan rushing out, looking visibly tired, with a look of despondence upon his face. Beckoning her inside, she sees the still form of Padme with 2 children by her side. Ahsoka collapses in despair seeing the passing of the senator she regarded as an elder sister, but she knows that the Force did not tell her to come here for that reason. Obi-Wan guides her to a small meeting room, where she sees the diminutive figure of Yoda as well as Bail Organa. Bowing to Yoda, Ahsoka takes a seat, and together, they discuss what to do with Luke and Leia. Leia is adopted by the Organas as in canon, but just as Luke is mentioned, the Force nudges Ahsoka. Ahsoka interrupts Yoda and Obi-Wan, telling them that she should be the one to raise Luke, surprising them both. Obi-Wan in particular is confused, but Ahsoka explains how she found her way here via the guidance of the Force. As Qui-Gon once told Anakin, "Nothing happens by accident," Obi-Wan reminisced. As a result, Obi-Wan would join Yoda on Dagobah, as this would help him progress in his attempt to communicate with Qui-Gon, due to the Force-sensitive nature of the planet, whereas Ahsoka would hop worlds, as any use of the Force would be easily detected by the new Empire. Obi-Wan detested this idea, as he had already lost Anakin to Sidious, and did not want Luke to suffer the same fate. Yoda briefly meditated, and decided that Luke was to stay with Ahsoka, until he was ready to become a Jedi Knight. Any communication would be forbidden apart from emergencies, in order to lower the chances of an Imperial interception. Going their separate ways, now came the practical part which the Force hadn't told Ahsoka, which was raising Luke. She decided that the most comfortable place to be for now was the planet of Ilum, a place only visited by the Jedi. For 3 years, Ahsoka was able to raise Luke in difficult terrain, residing in the crystal caves beneath the Jedi Temple, in which time she was provided supplies from former Jedi Pharaoh Solin, whom stayed in contact with Obi-Wan. After 3 years, however, Ahsoka sensed a darker presence looming over the planet, as the Empire began to descend. Packing away her and Luke's limited possessions, they headed off to the planet of Yavin 4, an area in which Anakin had fought Asajj Ventress. Ahsoka and Luke found life easier to adapt here, and Ahsoka spent the time feeding off the planet's Force Nexus to train Luke and herself. Furthermore, she uncovers many secrets, including a previously abandoned palace of the Woolamander and the lost city of the Jedi. However, as a result of Ahsoka training Luke, progress amongst rebel cells is slower, the Phoenix Squadron becomes a smaller factor, and Captain Rex remains in hiding. We fast forward another decade, as Luke has become a well-rounded Force user, with Ahsoka teaching Luke some elements of the Grey Jedi, as well as the Jedi Code. Ahsoka knows that now is the time to leave, not only because of Luke's progress, but also due to the spirit of the Sith Lord Exar Kun haunting the planet. Taking one last look at the planet they are called home, they boarded their ship and set the coordinates for Dagobah. Ahsoka used the journey to meditate on what had happened on their time on Yavin 4. She felt wiser and more powerful, yet the Force told her that her journey was far from complete. Eventually landing on the swampy planet with a smooth landing, Ahsoka and Luke headed towards the only light in what was a sea of darkness. Approaching a small hut, they can feel the aura radiating off the two great Jedi as they turn to greet them. Despite Ahsoka having gone to some length to describe Obi-Wan and Yoda, Luke could not be prepared for the sight of these two Force users. Bowing their heads in respect, and to avoid the low ceiling, they enter the hut to begin the next stage in Luke's journey. Yoda and Luke meditate together, as Yoda is able to ascertain that Luke has nearly progressed to the level of a Jedi Knight, but as in canon, several tests remained. Entering the cave, he would not see Darth Vader, rather two silhouettes of intimidating figures, which he would fend off using his mind. In the following several years, Yoda and Obi-Wan trained Luke and Ahsoka to maximize their abilities in the use of the Force, creating two fearsome combatants, as well as allowing them to sharpen their own skills. Yoda and Obi-Wan wanted more time, but the Force would inform them that the rebellion was being eviscerated by a new superweapon, thus the time to strike back was now. Taking Ahsoka's foliage-covered shuttle out of the planet, the four Force users finally exited the planet and re-entered the galaxy. Fortunately, Obi-Wan still had contacts within the rebellion, who had told him that they are one of the moons surrounding the gas giant of Yavin. Finally approaching the coordinates of Yavin's moons, they are confused to find that most of the moons have disappeared. Orbiting the still existing Yavin 4, they find themselves being pulled away, which could only mean one thing: a tractor beam. Ahsoka and Luke engaged all the forward thrust on board, but it was no use. Without a shroud to disorientate the tractor beam, the small ship never stood a chance against the might of the Imperial battle station. As they were all pulled in, they briefly meditated, allowing the Force to guide them to their next move. Upon landing, they surged to their feet, and as the ramp opened up, Ahsoka and Luke each threw a smoke grenade at the feet of the crowd of stormtroopers, before sprinting down a small corridor, sensing a darkness. Moving along to avoid the stormtroopers and Imperial officers, they creep closer to the darkness, before seeing it at the end of a long corridor. A towering figure awaited them, yet one which seemed so familiar. Igniting their lightsabers, they prepared for battle. The figure used his hand to throw a series of small crates into their path, before sprinting for Obi-Wan. Yoda had expected this, however, and used the metal scraps from the crate to divert them back towards the figure, allowing Obi-Wan to assume his Sorosu pose. The silhouette, thought Luke to himself. Suddenly, behind Luke and Yoda, emerged a legion of bounty hunters, attacking them with a variety of weaponry. Whilst Yoda and Luke dealt with them, Obi-Wan and Ahsoka fought the Dark Machine. Obi-Wan defended valiantly, as Ahsoka was able to land several strikes on the figure, but his cybernetics were able to keep him intact. Finally, Ahsoka manages to land a strike across his face, revealing a face of hatred, but one which she knew all too well. It was her old master. Without hesitation, Obi-Wan made a slash across Vader's control panel before Ahsoka could stop him, causing his breathing to become more laboured. Having dispatched the bounty hunters, Yoda tended to a wincing Luke, before coming over to Vader. Yoda grimaced in disappointment at what Anakin had become. The Chosen One was now a slave to the Emperor's needs. As Vader flicked between consciousness, an even darker presence began to loom over them, its footsteps causing the stormtroopers to scamper away. With an unexpected forward surge, the hooded figure zoomed towards the Force users, and used Force lining on Vader, making his body twitch in pain. Ahsoka was still in contact with Vader, and as a result, became a conductor, and began to suffer her own pain from the Force lining. Yoda had had enough, and levitated in front of Vader's body, and blocks the Force lining with his lightsaber. The hooded figure snarled, and removed his hood in anger, revealing the Emperor, who proceeded to ignite his crimson red blade. Obi-Wan knew that Yoda in his advanced stage could not stand the might of the Emperor, and made the first move to block his attack. The Emperor laughed, and easily disarmed Obi-Wan, who was still tired from fighting Vader, and force pushing Yoda to one side, slashed down upon Obi-Wan, before he was met by a saber through his chest. Looking down, he is briefly stunned to see that it was red, but he laughed, knowing that the Sith would continue, even without his presence. Vader, in his final act, had accurately spun his lightsaber around Palpatine into his chest, but he had not been quick enough to save his old master. As they mourn the losses of Anakin and Obi-Wan, a voice tells the trio to run, with Yoda using the Force to levitate the fallen duo's bodies down the corridor. Entering a dimly lit room, Ahsoka disables one of the links to the tractor beam, and together, they make their way to their shuttle, heading for Yavin 4. Eventually landing upon the planet they had inhabited several years ago, they sprinted to the rebel base with the two bodies. News of the Emperor and Vader's demises were met by cheers from most of the rebels, as their hope was reignited. However, for Ahsoka, this was the beginning of a new chapter, and glancing at Luke, one she hoped would make Anakin proud. That is it for What If Ahsoka Raised Luke. I hope you liked this longer episode of What If Star Wars Edition. Please like this video and subscribe for more tips, and as always, leave a comment on what if you'd like to see next. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.